are back for the first time in a few months. Had a couple month hiatus from the sports nerds, but as always, joined here today is Braden Bankin and Dawson Livingston. Braden, how you doing? It's been, I think the last episode recorded was June 9th, so right about that 2 month mark. But how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Just been hanging out, going through the withdrawals of football.
Yeah,
Thankfully, we got the Hall of Fame game last week. Was able
true.
to give me my fix again. But
hmm
yeah, I'm surprised this Blue Yeti still works after being
Yeah,
inactive for so long.
yeah. Well, with the season getting ready to, with preseason starting this week for every team, uh, we figured we'd get an episode out there. We did this last year, giving our like division preview where we see teams sitting within their divisions, who we have winning, who we have finishing last. But we'll do that in a second. We're going to start off with some of the more breaking news that happened on Thursday. If you're if you don't live under a rock and you're a fan of the NFL, you'll know that Micah Parsons requested a trade out of Dallas after months and months and months of contract negotiations. No contract was agreed upon. So Micah put out on his social media that he'd be like to be traded from the Dallas Cowboys. Braden, what are your thoughts on Micah asking for a trade, and do you think he'll actually get traded?
Do I think he'll actually be traded? No, I don't think. I really don't see a reason why they would. I mean, he's still under contract this year. I mean, I guess if he's gonna leave, you'd rather him not leave for nothing. But you simply can't trade a talent as good and as impactful and as young as Micah Parsons. I feel like that's just blasphemy.
Right.
But as far as contract negotiations go, I mean, we've been talking pretty much all offseason about how bad the Bengals are with their contract negotiations. Is there a worse GM slash owner at handling contract situations than Jerry Jones? I don't think there is. Because, good Lord, he does this every single time. It feels like CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, more recently. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like every time it feels like they could be ahead of the eight ball finally. Go ahead and get their guy under wraps long term before the market goes up. They just won't do it. They won't
Mm-hmm.
do it. They are allergic to making good money decisions, and lo and behold, they've done it again, and they have made another elite talent mad.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it. The Cowboys do this quite often with their star players. They always like to wait to the last possible second to extend any of their star players. Last year, it was Dak with his second big contract. CD was also last year. He was threatening to hold. CD, I think, did hold out of training camp for a little bit. Micah is at training camp, but then on Thursday, was it Friday that this news broke? I think it was maybe Friday morning. Now that I say that out loud, but
At some point in the
um,
last week.
right, yeah. So within the last 5 days, this has all gone down. And while I agree with you, I don't think he's gonna be traded. I honestly think a contract extension is probably gonna happen within the next month. I would be shocked if those two sides don't come to an agreement. It is a talking point to see like if he did get traded, where would he get traded? And so I have some of the odds pulled up via DraftKings, and off the bat, these are terrible odds because they have the Eagles as the best team to land him outside of the Cowboys, which the Cowboys are not trading
No.
interdivision, so you could scratch that one.
J-
Patriots,
Jerry Jones is
Patriots,
bad. Jerry Jones is not trade
yeah,
Micah Parsons to the Eagles bad.
right. Patriots are the next team. That makes a little bit of sense. Patriots have some assets. They have all the cap space in the world to make a deal like that happen, but we'll see if they actually pull the trigger. Then is followed by the Chargers, the Cardinals, and your 49ers are tied for fifth for best odds. I don't know what
Huh?
wizardry the John Lynch is going to have to pull to get some salary cap space out there, but
Hey,
they're
I
on
think we
the
have like the second most salary cap in the league like this year. It
yeah,
would have to be a one and done because no way in hell we're paying him any year in the
no.
future. But
No.
I
And
mean,
then
1 year of Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons, I wouldn't be mad.
right. And then to round out the rest of the top 10, it goes Rams, Panthers, Bears, Seahawks, and Jets. I kind of think, and I don't think they're going to trade him within the NFC. Granted, I don't think they're trading him at all, but in this hypothetical world, the Bears make a lot of sense.
I've been hearing a lot about the Bears. I could definitely see that.
I the Bears are like a piece away, assuming that the offense can turn it around this year, from really making steps forward into the contention level with other teams in the NFC like the Eagles and teams of that nature. But yeah, while me and Braden don't think he's going to get traded, it's a fun talking point to discuss. We need some sort of content because we've been MIA for the last 2 months, so we figured we'd bring that up. Um,
There's no such thing as impossible
True.
with trades anymore. Luca
Yeah.
got traded from the Mavericks. Nothing
Yeah.
is impossible.
I don't know if you saw that viral photo that's going around of the picture of Luca and Micah sitting next to each other. They did like a jersey
Hmm.
swap. Dude, if Micah gets traded within the next 3 or 4 months, poor Dallas fans. And now I don't feel bad for Cowboys fans because they're all obnoxious, but just the city of Dallas.
Actual like loyal Dallas
Dallas.
fans,
Yeah.
there might be no worse hell on earth than being a 2024 to 2025 Dallas sports fan.
Right. Um, that's kind of the last little thoughts I had on the Micah Parsons move, unless you have anything else to add, Braden.
I mean, not really. If they were to try to move on from Micah Parsons, as far as like what's on their roster right now, I don't really love the options they have, but we will get into that later, I suppose.
And we all think that Mike is going to get, he wants the highest paid non-quarterback salary out there, which I think is what, 42 million now?
That sounds right. Yeah, at
I
least
think,
over 41.
yeah, it's so, and the Cowboys are already paying Dak, they're already paying CD. They're going to have to pay Micah eventually. I know they paid, was it Trayvon Diggs a couple years ago? Yeah, their entire salary cap. Then by them waiting on this deal, it's going to cost them about 10 or 15 million a year when they could have gotten this deal
Jerry,
done
little Jerry.
last offseason. But in other news, we didn't really discuss this in our last episode in June because it wasn't really a talking point, but the saga with the Shamar Stewart Bengals contract holdout and is he just going to skip this year and go to the draft next year has been resolved. Shamar Stewart finally accepted a fully guaranteed contract, where he was slotted. I think it was like 18 million a year, or not a year, but I think that was a full contract. Maybe I'm wrong on that,
I
but
think it was almost fully guaranteed, not quite. Like they basically
right,
met in the middle. The whole thing was, they were trying to sneak in some sort of clause that's like, if anything happens, we just void your contract,
yeah.
which
The
is
Bengals were trying to
dumb.
do that with their next few first rounders, but Shamar was like, "No, I'm not going to be the
You,
guinea pig for
you can
this."
try that on the next guy,
Yeah,
but
which I
I'm not the
respect.
guy.
I respect. I respect Shamar Stewart for doing that, but he gets back on the field for the Bengals. And again, well, before we go into my next thought, but what are your thoughts on Stewart extent or signing his contract finally with the Bengals?
I mean, I touched on this a little bit earlier with how bad the Bengals are with contracts. How do you go this long without signing your first round draft pick? Like that is the equivalent of a free throw in the NFL as far as contracts go. Like you draft the guy in the first round. You say, "Hey, here's like a general first round contract. Quit trying to sneak some random garbage in there. Get your guy on the field, especially like Shamar Stewart isn't exactly known for like his technical ability. He's known for just being an athletic demon. So having him hold out of the offseason training camps is, I mean, who knows what that's going to do to his development. He any sort of ceiling he might have had for this rookie year probably just got halved because he is going into it with like a month of training with the team. So just all around could not have possibly been handled worse by the Bengals. But
Yeah,
for Shamar Stewart's sake, I'm glad that it got handled now as opposed to never, I guess.
I agree. I the Bengals defense is going to need him. That defense last year was the reason they
Yeah.
didn't make the playoffs. Um, Sticking on the Bengals topic, the looming Trey Hendrickson extension holdout. What's going on there? Uh, he's been saying for months that he wants a new deal. correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't he have the most sacks in the NFL the last 2 years when you combine his
That
seasons?
sounds right.
He
Yeah.
led the NFL in sacks this past season, I believe, or maybe 2 years ago, but has just been a really good signing for him when they got him from New Orleans about 4 or 5 years ago. But he wants to pay raise the Bengals. They're giving out all these contracts to everyone, to Jamar Chase, to T. Higgins, now to Shamar Stewart. Trey Hendrickson sitting there, he's like, I'm the most productive defensive player on for you guys, and he's not getting paid. What are your thoughts on Trey Hendrickson still not coming into an extension with the Bengals?
I mean, third time's the charm. The Bengals
Yeah,
do not know how to do contracts,
no,
especially on defense.
right.
So I'm not shocked. I don't see a world where Trey Hendrickson suits up for the Bengals this year. I just don't see it. I think that really, I think I've said this in previous episodes when this was starting to kind of form,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't. I think that relationship is soured long ago,
Right.
and I don't see it being mended anytime soon.
I don't see it. I agree with you. I don't see it them coming to a solution because they've already shelled out so much money for Jamar, for T. Higgins, for that entire offensive side of the ball that it just kind of feels like Trey's going to be the odd man out. And you said he's not going to play this year. I would also probably agree with that. I find it really hard to see that they're going to get an extension done before the season. Um, does that mean you start looking at like a trade scenario for him?
I think you'd have to. I mean, I don't. It surely doesn't seem like he's going to play. So I mean, you have an asset that's not play. That's not. You're not getting value out of. You might as well get something for him.
Right.
I mean, if he doesn't play this year, like voluntarily, I don't know if not. That's I think that adds another year to the contract because it's
Yeah.
like
It,
we are still paying you money. Granted, not the money you want, but we are still paying you money to do a job, and you don't do the job. There
yeah.
are going to be punishments for that. But I think Trey Hendrickson's camp is more than willing to deal with any sort of repercussions
Hmm.
if it means either getting the money he is owed, well, not necessarily owed, but deserves. I
Hmm.
think he more than deserves the money that he's going to get eventually. But yeah, he's not going to play until he either gets that money or gets traded to a team that will give him the money.
Yeah, I agree. The Bengals right now, them and the Cowboys are just kind of they're a big talking point of the offseason right now, with the season being about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks away from starting. Do you have any NFL news before we get into our AFC East division preview?
Only other thing I could think about, which I mean, this could a lot of the NFC East guys are kind of starting to talk about trade rumors, but Terry McLaurin requesting a trade also is something I kind of wanted to
True.
bring up just because I mean he's 29 years old, has been basically one of the only consistent bright spots on the Commanders or whatever they've been called, as long as he's been on the team. He again just wants to be paid what he's worth, which is fair enough, but he is 29. Once you get to about the age of 30 in the NFL, you are deemed basically worth a bag of chips unless your name is Travis Kelsey. So I would be interesting to see what happens there. If I am the Commanders, I am definitely worried if I'm going into the season with Debo Samuel as my wide receiver one in the big 2025. But uh, yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin was a Pro Bowl receiver last year. All Pro second team receiver. Had the most touchdowns of his career, the second most catches of his career, and has been 1,000 yard receiver ever since his second year in the league. So I would say he's deserving of that contract. What the number is going to be, I have no idea. It seems like any decent receiver now is getting around that upwards of 30 million to $40 million range. I don't think he's going to get quite to that Jamar Chase level. He's not the same caliber player as Chase or Jefferson, but I could see a scenario where he gets paid in that 34, $35 million range. And if you're the Commanders, now's the time to pay him because you have the golden ticket of a rookie quarterback under that contract where they don't have to make 60 million a year. Um, yeah, if the Commanders don't get this done by the start of the season, my Commanders' optimism will start to come back down to earth because you're right. I don't know if I really trust Debo Samuel in the year 2025 to be a wide receiver one. So, yeah.
I saw it with my own eyes. It's not fun.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Great point to bring up. And that'll kind of tie into when we preview the Commanders later in this episode. But we're actually going to get started with AFC East preview. We are going to first talk about, we're going to go in reverse order of the standings last year. Our first team we're going to discuss is none other than the New England Patriots. Braden, what are your thoughts on New England's offseason? Do you like any of the moves that they did, or what are your kind of overall thoughts going into preseason for the Patriots?
Yeah, overall, I mean, I have loved a lot of the moves that they've made. I think in general, giving Drake May a chance to survive is has got to be the number one priority, and I think they've done a good job of that. Going out and getting Stephon Diggs, going out and improving that offensive line with drafting Will Campbell at the 4th overall pick. Getting Gerard Mayo out of town was a great decision by them because he was certainly doing something out there, but I wouldn't call it successful coaching, which Mike Vrabel had success in Tennessee, obviously. So will be interesting to see what he does now that he's the head of command over there. Yeah, defense overall looks a lot better when they brought in like Milton Williams.
Mm-hmm.
There were other names I had when I was kind of doing research for this.
Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, Marcus Epps, or some of the other free agents that they brought in for defense.
But yeah, a lot better, I think, than they were last year. I think I don't see a world where they stagnate, where they go the same they did last year. I think it's really only up from there.
Yeah, I agree. I really like their offseason. I think Mike Vrabel is a difference maker when it comes to head coaches. He really took over the culture when he was at Tennessee and really established, hey, we're going to be super physical every single game. We're going to out tough every single team. And I am a big buyer of Drake May. I think Drake May is going to do really well this year. Some of the moves they made in the offseason I think are going to help. Signing Stephon Diggs, who went down last year with an ACL tear, but appears to be like he's going to be good to go-ish by the time the season starts. They also added Mac Hollins. They added Morgan Moses, the tackle from, I believe, the Ravens. Either Ravens or Commanders.
I believe so. Ravens sounds...
Yeah.
One of those.
I know he's played for both teams. I don't know which one was his last team, but they were able to get him. And then the big addition, obviously, is Will Campbell when they selected him at 4th overall. The best offensive tackle in the draft. I was making fun of him for short, stubby arms all offseason, but I think he's going to do well for the Patriots. They also added one of my favorite under-the-radar draft picks in Travion Henderson, who I think is going to do really well with New England. I really like where the Patriots are sitting at. Braden, if you had to give a floor and a ceiling record for the Patriots, what would you have to guess? Here's the schedule pulled up on the screen for viewers on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah. What would you think your floor and ceiling is going to be for the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to just based on the schedule. I mean, this looks really pretty winnable. A lot of these games, I'd say probably. I mean, best case scenario, they could maybe squeak one of those Buffalo games, but I doubt it. I doubt they beat Baltimore. Miami could be an interesting one. I could see that being a split, or really any direction I could see that going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say for a floor, probably 5-12.
Yeah.
Ceiling, I could see 10 wins.
Yeah, they do have some winnable games, and it does help that they're in a division with the Jets and Dolphins, who I think are due for regression this year. I like that a lot. I would say their floor is, I would say 6 wins. I think this roster is really talented. They made a lot of changes in the offseason, a lot of signings, and I would have to agree. 10 wins might be a little too rich for me. I might say 4 of 6 wins, ceiling of 9, maybe 10. 10 might be pushing it, but no, I think this team could potentially be fighting for a wild card spot in Week 18. So
Yeah, I think a lot of the trouble in trying to find floors and ceilings of the Patriots is the question mark that is Drake May. I mean, he looked really
yeah,
good last year, but at the end of the day, we don't know really what he's going to be.
right.
So you could see, like, if he absolutely just falls flat on his face, you probably don't win a lot of games. But if he goes out and shines, like I think he has the potential to do,
Hmm.
I don't be surprised if by the end of this year the Patriots are the second best team out of this division.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm a big buyer of the Patriots stock right now. Moving on to the second worst team in the AFC East is the New York Jets, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure I have that right. Yeah, the Jets, who finished last year with a 5-12 record. Um, Braden, what are your thoughts on the Jets offseason so far?
I mean, it's weird, right? Because on paper they looked so good last year until they realized Aaron Rodgers couldn't play football anymore, and it all
Right.
just kind of crumbled from there. And a lot of his cronies kind of just got shipped off along with him. So on paper, you look at it and you think, oh, this roster is really probably not as good as they were last year, and they went 5-12. But I think a lot of your hope in this team depends on your opinion on Justin Fields. And I'm not exactly the world's biggest Justin Fields defender out there. I wrote in my notes here. I thought this was kind of funny. Aaron Rodgers' experiment failed so bad you brought in anti Aaron Rodgers, which I mean I think is a I think is a pretty good way to describe Justin Fields at this point in his career.
Yeah.
But they paid Garrett Wilson, which I think was the correct decision. I think he's really talented if he can finally find somebody that can actually throw him the football. And I mean, I was singing Armand Membu's praises through the entire
Yeah.
draft process. I loved him as a pick. I think he's going to help Justin Fields out a lot. But at the end of the day, it is still Justin Fields, so
True.
we'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned the draft pick of Armand Membu. I think that's really going to help. They also had the first round draft pick last year, Olu Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State.
Hmm.
So I think it's the first time in a while that the Jets aren't going to have terrible tackles on either side of the ball. So I think that's going to help. The thing with the Jets is they're only going to go so far as what their quarterback play is going to go. Um, Justin was okay in his few games at Pittsburgh last year. It was a lot of running the ball. I don't think Pittsburgh really trusts him that much to make certain throws, but he does have Garrett Wilson. I, there are a couple. Brees Hall's going to be back. I don't know. I I think they're. I don't know. They're mid rebuild for me. I think this is going to be a team that we look at come April to select a quarterback in the first round. Is my thought process for the Jets. If I had to put a grade on their offseason, I would say it was about a C. They lost Devontae Adams. They obviously got rid of the Aaron Rodgers contract, which I think was good for him because that whole relationship was just not great for either side. Got rid of Robert Saleh, fired the GM Joe Douglas. We'll see um, what Aaron Glenn can do in New York. Aaron Glenn was really good with the resources he had in Detroit with all the injuries last year on that side of the ball. So I think he's going to be good for him. But Braden, if you had to put a ceiling and a floor for the Jets, what would you put?
I would say, God, this schedule looks. I'm looking at weeks 1 through 6. I think
Yeah,
I would be surprised if they go any better than 2-4 through that stretch.
I I would
I
be
mean,
surprised if they go better than 2-4. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like that is a rough stretch.
Hey, don't
Carolina
be
is not exactly a free
yeah,
win anymore.
don't be sleeping on the
Cincinnati
Panthers.
is one of those teams where you better be able to score more than 50 because they probably will.
Yeah,
Granted, they're going to make it easy on you, but
right.
yeah, I wouldn't say like I wouldn't put a win on their schedule in confidence until week 10. Like this could be we could be talking about like 3 wins. I'd put my floor at 3 wins. that is probably one of the lowest floors you're going to see through this entire series. I'm going to stand on that though. For my floor is 3-14. My
Okay.
ceiling 9-8, eight and
Ooh.
nine.
Okay. Okay.
Like
You had me
they
at the 9-8 for a second.
if Justin Fields really turns out like a 3-year contract, you would like the. I think he got a 3-year deal, didn't he? I don't know.
2 years. 2 years,
Two
40 mil.
years, 2 years, 40 mil. Okay, so I mean, you never know. I mean, anything is possible, but
Right.
yeah, if they go over 500, I think that is a resounding success.
I don't know if I have their floor as low as you did. I think this roster is still a little too talented for a 3-1 floor. But then again, quarterback play is going to be the huge determination of what.
They've lost a lot of talent and went 5-12 last year.
Yeah. Um. I'll say they're four. God, I'd say four, but their ceiling. I don't have 9-8 or 8-9. I'll say 7 wins at most, and that might be put like this schedule is. It's pretty brutal because even like you would think that week 9 Cleveland game or week 10 Cleveland game is going to be a layup, but Cleveland still got talent on the defensive side of the ball with Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, so that could make it trouble for Justin Fields. The Patriots got a lot better. They're not beating the Bills.
No.
They're not. The Bills are going to run away with this division, but we'll talk about them in a second. New Orleans is going to be pretty easy, but both teams are going to stink. We'll get to New Orleans probably next week or a couple weeks down the road, but yeah, I would say about 4-13 and a ceiling about 7-10. Again, I think this is a team that's going to be contending for a first round draft pick for a quarterback next year. So like Arch
If
Manning.
I had to like straight up bet what they would finish, I would probably go like 6-11.
Yeah,
5 and
that
12.
sounds right. And I don't have like over under win totals put in front of me, but I would have to imagine their win totals at like 5.5.
It can't be high.
Um, yeah. We pretty much have the same floor and ceiling for both the Jets and the Patriots. We're gonna move on to our third place team in the AFC East, and that is the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins made a couple moves this offseason. Mainly the trade of letting go of Jalen Ramsey and bringing in an old friend of Minka Fitzpatrick from the Steelers. So I want to first get your thoughts on that trade before we dive into the rest of the Dolphins move. What are your thoughts on that swap between Minka Fitzpatrick and Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah, that was an interesting one to me. I don't really know why. I mean, I know why they did it because Minka Fitzpatrick is a good talent. He's younger than Jalen Ramsey. But Jalen Ramsey was, I mean, he's still probably a top 10, top 15 corner in the league. He's still good. Trading him and Jonnu Smith to get Minka Fitzpatrick, we'll see what happens. But right now they are starting like Storm Duck at corner right now. It's I mean, it's a good thing they have Ashton Davis, I think, is their other corner. Or the other safety. It's a good thing they have pretty good safeties because they're gonna need to be able to track down the receivers burning their corners by about 30 yards every play.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm out on the Dolphins. I was never a huge fan of Tua. I think Tyreek is making things really uncomfortable for Miami. He's putting Tua in a really awkward spot. I, I don't want to say Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat, but the seat's at least warm. It's
I'll say it.
yeah.
If they don't turn out at least like 8 wins this year, I think he's gone.
But they got 8 wins last year. See what I mean? Like ever since they made the playoffs, 2 years ago, and just got completely embarrassed against the Chiefs. They've just kind of stagnated. Tua's had some injuries.
I think he kind of gets a pass last year though because Tua was hurt for so long.
True.
And they were strutting out. I mean, like Skylar Thompson last year. Yeah. It was rough out there. But yeah, I mean, Tua hopefully can stay healthy. Losing Teron Armstead's going to make that a lot more difficult. Hopefully, Patrick
True.
Paul's developing well because
Yeah.
he's going to
Forgot
be,
he retired.
well, I guess not the new blindside tackle, but he's going to be a starting tackle for them.
Right.
And their tight end one is now what 33-year-old Darren Waller, or however
Yeah.
old
I.
Darren Waller is.
That's
I
another move that just kind of went under the radar because Dolphins aren't really getting a whole lot of news coverage anymore. But
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't love this team, man.
no,
This is
no.
this
And
is a rough
you
one.
you mentioned the quarterback play. So Tua played in 11 games last year, went 6-5. So he had an above 500 record. So I'll give him a pass. But they had Snoop Huntley play in 5 games, and then they had Skylar Thompson play in 3 games. And Tua had 19 touchdowns and 7 picks. So okay, not great, but okay. Um, Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson combined had 3 touchdowns and 3 picks. So maybe
That sounds
maybe I need
about
to get
right.
yeah, maybe I need to give Tua more of a pass than I'm giving him, but I don't know. I don't know. This team just feels stuck. It feels like it's going to blow up next offseason. I think Tyreek, I don't think, I'll say, I don't think he's happy in Miami right now. I think he's getting disgruntled with Tua. I don't know. It just feels really, really tense down there in Miami. Would you say the same?
Yeah, it I think I remember an interview or whatever, him saying he wanted to retire at the end of this contract as a member of the Miami Dolphins. But that was when things were going swimmingly. They were making the playoffs every year. Things were going great. But
Yeah.
things are not going great anymore. So uh, I would not exactly say Tyreek Hill is one to stand on his morals. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
What is your floor and ceiling for the Miami Dolphins coming up this year? Looking at their schedule.
Assuming Tua plays an entire season,
Let's say Tua plays in at least 13 games.
Tua plays in at least.
So he
Okay.
misses 3 or 4 games, call it.
Uh,
The schedule's
yeah, I
not
mean,
favorable. I will say that. There's some mean games. Like
there are some quite mean games here.
you gotta play Buffalo twice a year. You play the Chargers, who I think everyone thinks is gonna be better. Gotta play Baltimore, which Baltimore is always tough. Gotta play Washington. Who knows what Pittsburgh's gonna be, but Pittsburgh always has a tough defense. Tampa Bay is always a tough game. But where do you think Miami finishes at this upcoming season?
I mean, you do get to start at least with Indianapolis and Carolina's. I mean, who
Hey,
knows?
don't be.
Cleveland, I
What's
think we
this
can assume is
Panthers
gonna be
hate?
good.
I will not
It's not
tolerate
Panthers
this.
hate, but I mean, we don't know what Bryce Young's even gonna do next year. We have no idea. He ended the year hot, but was that because he was playing better or because everybody was like, okay, Carolina's.
True. Fair enough.
So yeah, I'd say floor, assuming Tua plays 13 games, let's say. Floor, I'd go 5, 6 wins. I'd say their floor is a lot higher than you would think, just because Tua is one of those. He's one of those floor raiser quarterbacks where
Yeah,
he's gonna win you a couple games,
but he's gonna lose you a couple
but
games too.
he's gonna lose you a couple games because he
Yeah,
just doesn't make the oh my lord, what on earth was that play
yeah,
in a good way, not bad way.
right.
Occasionally bad way, depends on how many hits he takes, but alas.
Correct. Yep. What?
Ceiling?
Yeah.
Mm,
This feels like another eight win
yeah,
ceiling.
middle of the
This,
road, 8, 9 wins.
this feels like a cop out, but it just feels like anyone in this division other than Buffalo has this hard ceiling of like maybe the Patriots are the only one you could make an argument that they could sneak into the playoffs, but I can't
Maybe
see
I
it for the
put
Dolphins.
maybe I put Mike McDaniel's seat a little bit too warm because I mean I can't say this team has a ceiling of 9 wins and then say yeah if he goes less than 8 and 9 then he's getting
Yeah.
fired.
Well,
But
I'll go on the record. I do think this is his last year in Miami.
yeah, I do think it is, but
I
I
don't
don't know.
think
I
he'll
feel like
get
those are
canned
two conflicting
mid-season, but
statements.
it'll be that Black Monday, day after the season ends. It's like, hey, Mike, you're a guy. You were cool, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, if they can't nag that 7 seed, I think this probably wraps.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I think 5 wins is generous. This team, their offense is what's going to keep them in games as long as Tua stays healthy because they have Jalen Waddle, they have Tyreek Hill, they have whatever is left of Darren Waller, I guess. But Devon Achane's really good, so I'll say 5, maybe 6 wins. 8 wins is like their absolute ceiling because their schedule's brutal. I'm not a fan of
Yeah.
the schedule. So we're kind of eye to eye on most of these. So now I want to get into the Buffalo Bills, the division winners of last year's AFC East. Where where do you have Buffalo finishing at this year? I think me and you both agree it's they're going to win this division, but what are your thoughts on their offseason?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, their goal was to kind of just keep as much as they could, and I think they did about as good of a job of that as you really can.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Mac Hollins, I think, is going to suck for them, and but otherwise, I mean, so long as you have Josh Allen, I think that offense is going to do pretty well. The James Cook situation is kind of interesting. I think he's like holding in or whatever they're calling it,
Right.
where he wants another contract as well, but. I mean, step right up to everybody's favorite game. Do you pay the running back? We'll see what happens there. I do like James Cook. I think he's probably a top 10 running back in the league, or at least was last year. I think he has the potential to do that again if he plays all of the games. But if he's gonna hold out, who knows what happens there? Otherwise, I still whether it ends up being James Cook or Ray Davis or Ty Johnson or whoever ends up taking the most RB snaps this year, at least
Mm-hmm.
to start, I think that offense is going to be fine. Defense is where you ask the questions. It was last year. It is again.
Yeah.
They drafted Maxwell Harrison at the
Yep.
tail end of the first round this year. He has the height, weight, speed to make it happen, but guys, this 2025 and Trey White is your cornerback number 2. It's not great.
No.
That's not great. I mean, you really can't put a positive light on that. Rest of the defense does look really good. They brought in Joey Bosa.
They did.
He's going to be great for about 8 games until he gets hurt because that's kind of what he does.
True.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Rousseau's pretty good. Ed Oliver obviously is really good. Do they still have Von Miller? I honestly don't know.
No, Von Miller is on a team we're going to talk about in the other division. He just signed with. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Right.
He just signed there like
How
2
on
weeks
earth
ago.
did I forget about that one?
No
But-
worries.
I mean, they swapped out one old edge rusher for another one. They're both still going to be productive, but it's a matter of can you rely on them for an entire season? And I guess that's what Bills fans are going to have to find out.
Yeah.
But like I said before, you have Josh Allen. You're going to win the division. Probably going to win at least double-digit games, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. The floor for this team, I'll give my preview before I give my floor. Didn't really make any off-season like additions that like wowed me. I think Joey Bosa's okay in certain spots on like third downs and stuff, but he's at the age where he's super injury prone, so he's always going to be a concern. They brought in Josh Palmer for whatever that's worth. He was okay with the Chargers, and we'll see what ends up happening in Buffalo. Buffalo is going to really lean on Khalil Shakir to have a breakout year this year, which I think is going to be important. You mentioned that defense. That defense always has good numbers, but I'm worried about their secondary. Their secondary is still kind of a weakness for me. And the James Cook news, if he's going to hold out, is it's something. It's not nothing. But yeah, this team's going to easily win this division. I would say their floor is 10-7. That's if they just lose a couple one-score games. They shouldn't. Their ceiling, just because they have Josh Allen and he's the reigning MVP, I would say it's going to be 14 wins, which feels super high. but this team is always really good in the regular season. Their schedule, now they have to play a first place schedule for division, so it's kind of tough. But I don't know. Even though I'm a Chiefs fan, I want to make the record clear. I really like what Buffalo's got going on for their team. So I would say 4-10-7, ceiling 14-3 for the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, that is the AFC East division preview. Me and Braden pretty much we're eye to eye on most of these teams in the AFC East. We're going to be transitioning into the NFC side of division preview. We're going to be talking about the NFC East, and the worst team in the NFC East last year was none other than the New York Football Giants. Braden, what were your thoughts on the Giants offseason thus far?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in a lot better position than they were last year, but that's not really saying much. Ru- uh, I guess they're going to let Russ cook. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens there. Jackson Dart came in the back end of the first round. I doubt he gets much playing time this year. I think he is listed as their second string. I think they have Jameis at the third, which I think is wrong. I think Jameis should at least be the second string. I think he can. If there's an injury to Russell Wilson, I think I would much rather have Jameis Winston in there than Jackson Dart, especially at this stage in Jackson Dart's career, because he's still kind of trying to learn how to play an actual NFL offense instead of the Ole Miss baby offense. But otherwise, outside of the QB room, I really like the value for Cam Scadaboo I think they got him in the third round, maybe fourth, somewhere in that middle of the road pick. Uh, Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I watched him absolutely obliterate the fifth string linebackers Iowa State was trotting out there in the Big 12 championship game. But he's gonna get you the downs. He's gonna get you the yards you need on third down. Pair him with Tyrone Tracy. Both of them obviously have pretty good receiving chops as well. I I I think they probably have one of the more underrated running back rooms in the league. But I mean, can that carry an offense? I doubt it. Malik Neighbors obviously is still really good. We'll see what happens in year two out of him. Thankfully, he has somebody other than like Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock throwing him the ball. So
right.
you would like to think that would lead to improvement, but it's the NFL and nobody knows. Defensively, bringing in Javon Holland, I think, is going to improve that defense a lot. He is a stud. I love him. I am sad to see him leave Miami, honestly, just because Miami needs help in the secondary. I'm not
They
a
do.
Miami fan, but I think they were at least a fun team to watch. So seeing it, and then I love Mike McDaniel as well. I know we were just talking about how we think he's going to get fired, but Niners fan here, loved him for the Niners. Would love to have him back next year as an offensive coordinator if he gets fired,
Who knows?
a la Robert Saleh. But
Big Bob Sala.
who knows there? Uh, but yeah, I think he's going to be good for them. Obviously, bringing in was Brian Burns brought in last year or this year? Honestly,
Last offseason.
okay.
Yeah.
So many things are just blurring together right now.
Yeah.
But
It's okay. It's the first time we've actually had to think football in 2 months. So
yeah,
I get it.
I'm a little rusty, but I do
Yeah.
know they brought in Abdul Carter this
They
year.
did.
That pass rush is going to be nasty. Uh,
Yeah.
with Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns. Woof. Get ready,
Good luck.
offensive lines of the AFC or NFC East. Good lord. That pass rush is going to be really good. I think the defense is going to be pretty solid. It's just going to be a matter of can the offense keep up. But the NFC East is a very good division, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Just to kind of touch on some of those things you said, they made a splash in the first round, getting Abdul Carter at number 3, and then getting Dart, could be the quarterback of the future for them. Well, who knows right now? Brought in Russ, who I think is going to be kind of a steady Eddie for him. Um, it's tough to say this team's going to be really good because of the division they're in and having to play the Eagles twice, having to play the Commanders twice, and the Cowboys. That's always going to hurt them. But I like what the Giants have done. I I don't know if I love them getting Dart, but I think it's worth a test, worth a swing. So I applaud them for that. This division or this schedule, pardon me, is it's not terrible. They have a fourth place schedule, so they get a couple easy games here and there, uh, like the New Orleans of the world. Um, Vegas isn't very strong. I don't know. I would have to think that this team is still probably going to finish at the bottom of the NFC East, which sucks because they made a lot of swings this offseason that I think are going to help them. But for me, their floor is about 6 wins. I think would they have 3 wins last year? I'll say 6 is their floor. Their ceiling is maybe 8. That's a team that with how their quarterback play, unless Dart plays and he comes out and he balls out, which I don't think is the case. I'd say their ceiling is about 6-11, and their floor is their floor is 6-11. Their ceiling is 8-9. Braden, what's your ceiling and floor for the Giants?
Yeah, the Giants were one of those teams this year. I'm just kind of adding on that, like, when you think about, oh, it's the Giants, they're going to suck. But then you looked at all the things they did in the offseason, like, ooh, like these are probably going to be pretty good. Yeah, Devon Holland's going to be solid for that defense. Abdul Carter is going to be probably one of the easy front runners for defensive rookie of the year. But then you look at the schedule. It's like, it's like brutal. you as far as floor goes, what do you even see for free wins here? Like New Orleans
and the Raiders. That's
Raiders,
and even the Raiders.
Maybe Minnesota if JJ McCarthy just absolutely face plants.
So,
like,
the toughest strength of schedule in the league is the New York Giants, funny enough.
Yeah. So, I love this Giants roster. I think they are much improved from last year. But I think their floor is probably like 4 wins. I think you have those 3 maybe free wins, and then maybe they luck into one more. But I think a floor of 4. And ceiling, probably like 7 or 8, probably closer to 7 wins.
Yeah. Maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic on the Giants this upcoming year. I just think their defense is going to win them a lot of games. Like, that defense is so good that I think it's going to...
I love this roster. I think the roster is good. The problem is their schedule is hell.
It's brutal. Yeah.
Like, you give them a league average schedule, I think they probably go 7 wins easy.
Yeah. But having the toughest
this schedule, absolute gauntlet, you're lucky if you can pull out 7.
Yep. The team that finished 3rd in the NFC East last year is none other than America's team, if we're even calling them that anymore, in the Dallas Cowboys, who we talked about at the start of the episode. Just the whole drama with them and Micah Parsons. But what are your thoughts on the Cowboys offseason?
I mean, they didn't really do much. George Pickens was a really good addition for that receiving core. I think he's going to be really good in trying to counteract whatever's going on in that running back room. No Jaden Blue shade. I think he could be pretty solid, but I think if that's your week 1 starter, there's probably an issue there.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about the Micah situation. If he ends up playing, I think this team's going to be a lot better. And yeah, the new head coach, which, I mean, he was your offensive coordinator last year. Was your offense that impressive last year? I wouldn't say so. I think he's more just a mouthpiece for Jerry Jones to get to do what he wants. This team does not inspire much confidence. And as much as Cowboys fans love to say that this is their year, this is not their year.
Yeah. Having the Commanders and the Eagles in this division just makes everything so much difficult for both the Cowboys and the Giants. They did switch coaches and get Brian Schottenheimer. They did make the selection of Tyler Booker with the 12th pick this past year, who's a ferocious run blocker who's going to help the Cowboys in their running game, which was I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but it was, I think, easily the worst in the league last year, their running attack, for their running backs at least.
Yeah, no,
But
I love Tyler Booker. I do like that pickup, but any sort of positive on that is negated with losing Zach Martin to retirement.
true,
So,
yeah.
eh,
But they didn't really make a whole lot of moves. You mentioned the George Pickens trade. I think that's going to help out CeeDee Lamb, and I think it's going to help out George Pickens as well. Um, but yeah, I think they also have like the second toughest, or they have the fifth toughest schedule in the league. So that's going against them. There's not really many winnable games on the schedule, maybe other than I don't know the Jets or the Cardinals, but I don't know. Both those teams could be potentially frisky. For me, I'd have their floor. They feel like a 5-win team as their floor. Like if disaster strikes, they still have talent. Granted, I'm saying this with the assumption that Parsons and Jerry Jones get a deal agreed to in the next 30 days. The ceiling, if we can get Dak Prescott from 2 years ago when he was runner up in MVP or third in MVP, he was a top 3 MVP finisher. Um, I think that the Cowboys could make some noise and potentially sneak in as a 6 or 7 seed. So I'd say their ceiling is about 10-7, but that floor, and we saw what they were last year. They just were not a very good offense without running the ball. But yeah, their range for wins for me is pretty wide. So, what is your floor and ceiling for the Cowboys?
I mean, it's hard to put their floor too low because it felt like last year was kind of a disaster scenario for them with Dak
Yeah,
going down, and they still won like 7 games.
they
So
won. Yeah, I think
it's
it was 6. But
it's
yeah,
6 or 7 games. Either way, it's tough to say that they're going to finish any
7. You're
worse than
right.
they did last year.
You were right. I was
So
wrong.
and they didn't necessarily get better, and I mean, the saying is always if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess I would probably put the floor at about 6 wins. As far as the ceiling, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think if things can really just click, I could see 9 or 10 wins, but I don't have a lot of hope
I
for this
don't either.
Cowboys team.
It just feels like there are a lot of offseason noise that's not going to translate to wins in the regular season. But now we get to one of the more exciting teams from last offseason, or last season, not last offseason, excuse me, in the Washington Commanders, who have been a little bit of a talking point this offseason with a few of the trades that they've made and just Terry McLaurin news. But, Braden, what are your thoughts on the Washington Commanders offseason thus far?
Yeah, I mean, they fleeced the absolute shoes off of the Texans and getting Laramie Tunsil out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Brought in Debo Samuel, like I said before, but unfortunately it is 2025, not 2019. So we'll see what happens there. We touched on the Terry McLaurin situation. If they can bring him back, I think that's going to be pretty big. Uh, Defensively, I mean, I think their linebacker core has like the average age of about 30. So definitely a bit of what the kids today would call the unction going on that
yes.
team. A
Them and
lot
the
of
LA
old guys.
Clippers.
Well, Austin Eckler's like 32. Zach
Yep.
Ertz is like 37.
Them
A
and the
lot
Clippers,
of
dude. Them and the Clippers.
that is an absolute retirement home over there. But I
Yeah.
mean, they were balling last year, so we'll see what happens. But sophomore slump is a real thing, and it has attacked a lot of very promising quarterbacks after their rookie year. So if you're a Commanders fan, I would be on my hands and knees praying every night that JD5 beats the sophomore slump.
Yeah. For me, this feels a lot like what we thought of the Texans last season with Stroud. And the Texans made a lot of moves that last offseason, getting a guy like Stephon Diggs, bolstering that defense, getting Daniil Hunter. And we thought a lot of people were saying that they could potentially make a Super Bowl run or maybe an AFC title game run. Um, and then CJ had a little bit of a sophomore slump, but that's to be expected. You're right, and Commanders fans hoping that he doesn't. But man, they're giving him every opportunity to not. Getting a guy like Tunsil's going to help a lot with the run blocking, pass block. Whatever's left of Debo, I think Debo's still good on certain plays, but they got to get the Terry situation figured out. If they don't, this could be a disaster season for Washington. They added Von Miller, Michael Gallup, and a couple others on the defensive side. But for me, I would have their floor at like 7-10. Their ceiling, they won too many one-score games last year for their ceiling to be super high. I would say their ceiling is 11-6. So disaster is like 7-10, and I think ceiling is 11-6 just because they were so dependent on those one-score games last year. It's going to be super hard to repeat that success. So, Braden, what's your ceiling and floor for the Commanders as we get into our last team?
I would put my floor at about 8 and 9. I you never know with Jaden Daniels if he has a sophomore slump. Obviously, things could go a lot worse than they did last year, like you said about all those one-score games. But that roster still has a lot of talent. I think
True.
If you can get like middle of the road QB play, I think you can crank out at least 9 wins with that team. As far as the ceiling, I would say probably like 12 wins. I just love the roster, and if Jane Daniels can do what he did last year, I think they can do. I don't want to say they're going to do as much noise as they did last year because they overperformed, I think, by a mile.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to the roster, but
Right.
it would be hard to see them do that again.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they could win a playoff game or two.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. And then the last team, we're going to have to make this somewhat quick, is the reigning Super Bowl champion, the Philadelphia Eagles. Braden, what are your thoughts on their offseason? And then what is your ceiling or your floor and ceiling for the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, they revived the career of Mekhi Becton because like Brian Stoutland, I think is his name.
Yeah.
That their offensive line coach just does absolute miracles. We'll see if Kenyon Green can kind of be his next protege and just absolutely revive his career. They lost a lot of defensive backs. I think they lost like 4 corners and 2 safeties. Definitely paid the Super Bowl tax to where if you win the Super Bowl, a lot of your talent's going to go win a lot of money else or get a lot of money elsewhere. But fortunately for them, a lot of the 2 DPs that they did get to keep were their 2 rookies that were so good last year. Yeah. So hard to say that they're going to decline too much, but I mean, you never know. AJ Dillon, I guess, is there to maybe help Barkley in the shortage situations, but let's be honest, they're just going to tush push if they get within 3 yards. Mm-hmm. And I would say expect the same unless something tragically goes wrong on one of those tush pushes. Floor probably 10 wins, ceiling 13, maybe 14.
Yeah, I think they won 14 last year, if I'm not mistaken. Or 13 or 14. One of those two. I agree with everything you said. It does worry me that they lost a lot in the corner and safety room, but I think them still having Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean back there, I think it's going to be super beneficial. This team is so loaded. That roster is unbelievable on pretty much every aspect of the ball. I think it's going to be a huge year for Jalen Hurts because I don't think Saquon's going to repeat 2,000 yards like he did last year. No. So it's going to be a big Jalen Hurts year. And I would have to agree. For me, I'd say their floor is 11-6. 2 years ago, they went 11-6, and people thought the Eagles were done, and they lost in the first round to the Bucs. Their ceiling's got to be 14 wins. This is easily the most talented roster in the NFL, in my opinion. And I think you also might have the same opinion. But yeah, that is our division preview for the AFC East and the NFC East. That was a lot of fun. Be sure to check in next week. We'll have another division preview for either the North divisions or the South divisions. But yeah, great episode. For Braden Bankin, I'm Dawson Livingston, signing off.